There is mold growing in your house right now, not on the wall where you can see it. Underneath you. Picture the space beneath your floor. It is dark. The air has not moved in years. The soil below it is cold and damp, and every day it breathes water upward into the wood holding your house together. Nobody has looked down there. Almost nobody ever does. You will not smell it until it is bad. You will not see it until it comes through the baseboard or blooms in the corner of a closet. And by then, a contractor will hand you a bill with 4 or 5 figures on it. Now look at this. A handful of black lumps. Burnt wood. Charcoal. A bag of it costs about $5 at any hardware store on Earth. And for over 1,000 years, Japanese builders spread this across the ground beneath temples and shrines to make sure the wood above it never rotted. Some of those buildings are still standing today. This is not folklore. Modern testing shows that laying charcoal beneath a floor drops the humidity under there by around 15%. Along with it, reports of suppressed mold and suppressed termites. 15% does not sound like much, but mold needs the air around it to sit at roughly 60% humidity before it can take hold. 15% is the difference between a space that grows mold and a space that cannot. Because here is the thing almost nobody tells you about mold. Mold is not a stain. It is not dirt. It is a living organism. And like every living organism, it needs water. Take away the water, and it does not just stop spreading. It dies. Now let me show you why the thing under your sink has never worked. Household bleach is somewhere between 3 and 8% sodium hypochlorite. The rest of the bottle is water. So when you spray bleach onto a damp wall, you kill what is on the surface. And then you leave behind more of the exact thing the mold needed in the first place. You are watering it. That is why it comes back. Same wall, same corner, every single year. You have been treating the symptom with a bottle that is 90% the cause. Charcoal does the opposite. It ignores the mold entirely and takes away the one thing keeping it alive. Stay to the end, because there is a twist in this story that almost nobody sees coming. Japan, the country that invented this, has a serious mold problem today. And the reason why is the same reason your house has one. So how does a lump of burnt wood pull water out of the air? The answer is hidden inside it, and it starts with how charcoal is actually made. You do not make charcoal by burning wood. You make it by heating wood while starving it of oxygen. Without oxygen, it cannot burn. So instead, the water, the resins, and the organic compounds cook out of it and escape as smoke. What is left behind is a skeleton of almost pure carbon. But that skeleton is not solid. Everywhere the organic material used to be, there is now an empty channel. The wood's own plumbing, its cell walls and its water tubes are still there in shape, hollowed out and open. The result is a material riddled with millions of microscopic pores. Here is the number, and it is genuinely hard to believe. Take 1 single gram of binchotan, the hard white charcoal Japan is famous for. If you could unfold every one of those pores and lay the surface out flat, it would cover an entire tennis court. 1 gram, a piece the size of a sugar cube. And bamboo charcoal goes further still. Bamboo is fired at 800 to 1200 degrees Celsius, and the result has roughly 4 times the absorption rate and 10 times the surface area of ordinary charcoal. Now imagine 40 pounds of it spread across the ground beneath a house. You are no longer looking at charcoal. You are looking at a surface area the size of a small town, sitting in the dark, waiting for water molecules to land on it. And this is where it gets clever, because charcoal does not simply soak water up and stay full. When the air around it is humid, those pores pull moisture in and hold it. When the air dries out, they release it back. It breathes, in and out, with the seasons, forever, with no power, no filter, and no moving parts to break. That is the difference between a dehumidifier and a piece of charcoal. A dehumidifier removes water, and it needs electricity, maintenance, and eventually replacement. Charcoal regulates humidity and asks for nothing at all. The Japanese have a name for this whole category: choshitsu, humidity control. Not humidity removal. Control. And there is a second effect that comes free with it, which is why the old builders liked it so much. Those same pores trap odor molecules and volatile compounds out of the air. The space under the house stops smelling like a space under a house. They figured all of this out because they had no choice. Japan is hot and wet in a way that is difficult to describe if you have not stood in it. In summer, the air is thick enough to feel on your skin. There is a rainy season that soaks the entire country for weeks on end. And they built everything out of wood and paper. Wood rots, paper molds. Tatami mats are woven from rush over a straw core, and straw is exactly what mold wants to eat. So the Japanese house had to solve moisture, or it would eat itself. And the solutions they came up with were not chemical, they were structural. Start with the floor itself. Walk up to a traditional Japanese house and look at the base. The whole building sits raised off the ground on wooden posts. A foot or more of open air runs underneath the entire structure. That gap is not for storage. It is there so air can move under the house and carry moisture away before it ever reaches the timber. Damp rises out of soil constantly. A house built flat on wet ground is drinking that damp through its own floor every hour of every day. Lift the house off the ground, and the problem simply cannot start. Then along the sides of that foundation you will find small vents, deliberately placed so wind blows through the underfloor space instead of letting the air sit still. And in the buildings that mattered most, they went one step further. The temples, the shrines, and especially the kura, the thick-walled storehouses where a family kept everything it could not afford to lose. Rice, documents, silk, things that mold destroys completely. Under those floors, they spread charcoal across the bare ground before they built, air moving above it, charcoal absorbing below it, the timber in between staying dry for centuries. Now go inside the house, because the mold defense continues. The floor is covered in tatami, woven rush over a straw core. It looks like decoration. It is not. Those natural fibers pull moisture out of a humid room and give it back when the air is dry. The floor itself is a humidity buffer. The walls between the rooms are shoji and fusuma, wood and paper panels that lift out of their tracks completely. On a humid day, the family removes them and the house stops being a set of sealed rooms and becomes an open pavilion with air running straight through it. Overhead, the eaves reach far out past the walls, so rain never runs down the wall itself and the sun never bakes it. Every one of these things is doing the same job from a different angle. Move the air. Do not let water settle. Never seal anything. None of it uses power. None of it wears out. None of it needs a chemical. Picture it for a second. It is the middle of the rainy season. Outside, the air is so heavy it feels like standing in warm water, and the world is gray with rain. You are sitting on a tatami floor in a house with no dehumidifier, no air conditioner, and no machine of any kind. The panels are open along both sides of the room. Air is moving slowly across the floor and out the other side. Under you, through the boards, more air is moving through the dark, over a bed of charcoal that has been quietly drinking the damp out of that space for 200 years. Nothing is running, nothing is plugged in, and the wood around you is dry. So here is the obvious question, and the answer is the whole point of this video. If this worked for 1,000 years, why does almost nobody build this way anymore? Follow the money, because it is not complicated. Mold is one of the most profitable problems in housing. Professional mold remediation on a house runs from a few $1,000s into the tens of thousands, and it is often not covered by insurance, because insurers classify mold as a maintenance failure rather than an accident. That bill lands on you. Dehumidifiers sell by the million and consume power for as long as you own them. And there is an entire aisle at the hardware store devoted to sprays and washes and foggers that treat mold, every one of which has to be bought again next season because none of them touch the water. Now look at what happens if a house is built the way we have just described. Raised off the ground, vented underneath, charcoal laid down once, no remediation contract, no dehumidifier, no annual spray. Nothing left to sell ever again. An industry does not exist to eliminate the problem it sells the solution to. But there is a second reason, and honestly, it is the bigger one. Sometime in the 20th century, construction everywhere made a decision. Seal the building. Sealing a house is genuinely good for one thing, and that thing is energy. If air cannot get in or out, you are not paying to heat and cool air that escapes. So insulation went into the walls, gaps were closed, windows were fixed shut, and the modern airtight box was born. But a sealed box has no way to get rid of water. You breathe out moisture all night. You shower, you cook, you dry clothes indoors. A single load of wet laundry drying in a closed room releases liters of water into the air. All of that water goes somewhere, and in a sealed house, there is nowhere for it to go. So it collects in wall cavities, behind the wardrobe pushed flat against the outside wall, in the closet nobody opens, and under the floor. And mold grows in exactly those places. Not randomly, precisely where the air stopped moving. We did not fail to solve mold. We built a machine that manufactures it, and then we built an industry to clean up after the machine. Now, the twist I promised you. Japan has a mold problem today. A serious one. The country that invented underfloor charcoal, raised floors, and walls that come out of the frame is now full of homes covered in it. Ask anyone who has lived in a modern Japanese apartment through a rainy season. And the reason is exactly what you just heard. Modern Japanese homes abandoned the breathing house and adopted the sealed box for the same energy reasons everyone else did. They insulated. They shut things tight. They kept the traditional materials, the tatami, and the timber, and the paper. But they took away the airflow that kept those materials alive. Wood, paper, and straw inside a sealed damp box is close to the worst combination possible. Those beautiful traditional surfaces stop being climate control and turn into food. This is the part that should land hardest because it proves the point better than any 1,000-year-old temple could. The problem was never the climate. Japan was always hot and wet. The problem is the sealing. Take the same country, the same weather, the same materials, and remove the airflow, and mold arrives immediately. It was never about where you live. It is about whether your house can breathe. So what do you actually do about it, standing in your own house, right now? Start with the truth about what charcoal is and is not. Charcoal does not scrub black mold off a wall you can already see. If mold is spreading visibly across drywall, that has to be removed properly. And if it covers a large area or anyone in the house has breathing problems, that is a job for a professional. Mold is a real health issue, and it is worth treating like one. What charcoal does is take away the water, so that once mold is gone, it has nothing to come back to. It is not the cleanup. It is the reason you only have to clean up once. Here is how to use it. Get plain hardwood lump charcoal, not briquettes. Briquettes are compressed dust held together with binders and additives, and the pores you are paying for are packed shut. You want the real thing, black and irregular, the kind that still looks like the wood it used to be. For a closet, a cupboard, a bathroom, or the cabinet under a sink, put a few pieces in an open container or a breathable cloth bag and set it in the corner. That is a $5 fix for a small space, and it is the same trick used in Japanese homes right now. For a crawl space, you need real volume spread across the ground. That is a bigger bag and a bigger afternoon. But it is a one-time job, and charcoal does not expire. And once every few months, take the charcoal outside and leave it in direct sun for a day. The heat drives out everything it has absorbed and the pores open back up. Then it works again. You are not consuming it. You are recharging it, but charcoal on its own is only half of what you just learned. The other half costs nothing at all. Open the house in the morning on opposite sides and let air run straight through before the day heats up. Never dry laundry indoors without ventilation. Pull furniture a few inches off exterior walls so air can move behind it. The still air trapped back there is where mold starts, and it is the single most common place people find it. Go outside and check your crawl space fence. Make sure they are actually open. Most people have never looked once. And if you have a crawl space with bare soil under it, that soil is releasing water into your house every day of the year. A ground cover down there does more than any spray ever will. None of this requires a contractor. None of it requires a subscription. It is the same principle the Japanese arrived at 1,000 years ago, applied to whatever house you happen to live in. Mold is not a cleaning problem. It never was. It is a water problem wearing a costume, and every product sold to scrub it away is treating the costume. Take away the water, and the thing dies on its own. There is another old building trick that solves a problem just as expensive, using nothing but the shape of the roof over your head. That story is already on this channel. Click it now.